So I'm here with Luis Reyes. Now, Luis is our chief agronomist, our only agronomist actually at the food bank with that title. And Luis, you've been responsible for so much of our success in recent years. I think of, it was right at the beginning of COVID, so 3 years ago, and decided to build a greenhouse. And that's when I first got to know you, right? And it was pretty great. And you and John Fleming and some of the others of us, we got together and we ordered the greenhouse, and then we built it with the help of lots of other groups, and it was great. But I don't think any of us really understood how much of a success it would be. Did you? You had just gotten involved with the food bank, and you said, I'm really interested in helping with the greenhouse. I know all about them, which you used to do back in Chile. But did you think it would become what it is now?
At the first moment, I was skeptical. I was involved in another greenhouse project, a super nice one that it was isolating himself with bubbles. Like you feel a gap between the two layers of plastic with bubbles.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out. And I always saw how difficult it was to first rally the community behind a project like this, and then how hard it is to get the proper funds to implement it. And so those are like specific abilities that you need to run a project like that. Mm-hmm. And then you have to know how to grow the plants. So I was good in growing up the plants, and yes, I remember exactly when it was, because I was laid out from my job. I was in that moment working with the Catholic school board, and at COVID began, and that's it, no more jobs, and we have a couple of or two, I'm going to say, checks from the government, and then you were by yourself.
Yeah.
Then I decided to jump into what I knew. Like I did want to get involved in the community. I knew the way for me to do that was doing agriculture, and I was really into doing urban agriculture. So what I did really was, since I have so much spare time in that moment, I went to all of the groups that I found, like in the web, like in media, social media, and I told them, like, hey, this is my background in growing food. I'm looking to do it in the city. Like, what are the opportunities around? And I was connected to the food bank, like, somebody heard like the food bank has an idea about building a greenhouse in the city. So like, I heard that one before, it didn't end up well. And then we interchanged emails, and we met each other.
And it worked. And then of course we kind of had things all to ourselves when you think about it. Like the food bank was running full blast at that time, even though it was COVID. We stayed open with cooperation of the health unit to keep giving out food hampers. But as far as the rest of the operation goes, we could really sense that half of the city had shut down, right? And then, so then the greenhouse came in with the metal girders and the plastic sheeting and everything else, and we got going and we got it done. But from the very beginning, Luis, people wanted to come and see it. It was like a physical phenomena at the food bank. And I remember people coming, the media came to take the pictures of it. And we hadn't grown anything yet. You and I were building the benches to put in it. And then we started growing, and the next thing you know, it just began to flourish. And at that point, you then had to learn to get all the balances of everything right. Like that it was heat and cold. It grows 12 months a year, that kind of stuff. Was that a lot for you to learn, or did you kind of figure out it went the way you thought it would?
No, it went the way we planned it. Like to have two furnaces at the greenhouse was designed like that. To have the double layer of the plastic inflated in between to get a little bit of isolation was designed like that. The 4 fans that are in the top, like circulating, they are doing that circulatory movement. Is that design? And sometimes even the irrigation system that we have is a nice one, because we can inject the fertilizer directly to whenever we're watering. We use even hot water during the winter, so we don't stunt our plant when we start them. And all that is by design. The thing is, like, it's like a chain. Like, if one of those links breaks, you don't have the plants at the end. So for me to do in the growing part, that's what I like. That's what I did in Newfoundland, like growing herbs there for a big wholesale greenhouse there. So I know that I could do it. I was worry about you guys could do it. Like I remember our first meeting, I was like super critical about like you should have a staff for that, like a person like maybe a gardener in your staff that knows this, but you have to go through some parts that the temperature checking, the alarms that you have to check, and this is a living machine, so it can break during night or in winter during, I don't know, 1st of January when nobody can help you, and the only one that can run to the greenhouse is the grower yourself. All of that to keep our plants happy and alive. Yeah.
That's right. But you, I think we saw right away that the public is so interested in it that we saw right away for us as a food bank, we were kind of in a new dimension. We were in over our heads with it. So we hired you, we brought you on, and but it seemed to really work out. And the next thing we knew, we had to go through a winter and see what was going to happen there. And I think as much as I loved the spring and the summer and all the green and all the stuff that was there, I mean, I was kind of shocked during the winter at how much the plants grew during the winter season. Now that's because we had heated the greenhouse. I know it's insulated because of the 2 layers of plastic. But really, it was such a delight that in the middle of a COVID winter, when things were kind of bleak here and across Canada with what was going on, here was this little 1/4 acre of life back there at the food bank that was just thriving. And I think that really brought a lot of people out and interested. And then we came out of the winter and moved into the spring. But I have noticed that the food bank, part of its responsibilities to help other social agencies. So during that time, it was true that many of the social agencies were struggling during COVID, and suddenly we were providing more fresh food, fresh vegetables to those folks, and they really appreciated it. But we also set up a partnership, you did, with Fanshawe College, right? They were doing some research and partnering with us. But it seems to me that after COVID ended, that aspect of us helping other groups actually began to really grow. It wasn't so much about us providing food just for our own clients at the greenhouse, right? You were beginning to utilize the greenhouse as a way of helping other organizations get a head start on the spring. How did you do that? What happened?
I guess the word spread around that, hey, this nice greenhouse that grows during winter. So the amount of gas that you have to put to heat a structure like that is isolated a little bit, yes, but it's not the house. The heat goes faster than a house. The volume is 3 times the volume of air inside a house, and you have to constantly move it. So to have that during the middle of the winter and give you a kickstart, like I'm going to say probably a month and a half, to have already grown plants at the middle of May, when you want to go outside, when it's clear to go without the frost being something that really worries you. It could happen that there is a frost later, but you know what? We always produce more plants in the greenhouse in case of that. So what we did now was, I guess, tell a couple of growers of community gardens about what about starting your seedlings in the greenhouse. And we did. So that's a way to, because the season is so short, Glen, that's the thing. If you can harvest 2 weeks before you want, if you can extend your season a little bit longer, would be a nice thing for them. But that requires for them to have a small greenhouse, maybe a not heated one, to extend the season. But with our greenhouse in the middle of the city, we can produce the seedlings, the small starter plants, and that allows them to grow faster and a little bit early.
That's what happens. So for a lot of it, how early would you say? Do they save like 2 or 3 weeks? Because these things are growing in the greenhouse while the frost is still there, but it's soon to leave. So they can't really plant it outside in their gardens or anything. But while it's in the greenhouse, it's thriving. It's really growing. So then all of a sudden the frost season's over, you transplant the seedlings to wherever it is where the people plant them, and they've already got a 2 or 3 week head start. Is that how it works?
Exactly how it works. So for lettuces, instance, like as soon as you can go outside, like that's the early thing, like your leafy greens go outside like super early. And to have like really developed plants in that moment, it really pays up. Like an increased bumper crop at the early season is super nice.
Yeah.
And we provide that too now.
Yeah. And we partner with Fanshawe. They're doing a bit of research with us, which is great. But also, I've really noticed since the pandemic has ended, and some of these groups can really come forward. There's groups like Urban Roots, or The Patch, or Fanshawe itself, or Community Gardens. There really is a desire to see urban agriculture grow in London. The problem was it was difficult during COVID, right? And then it's also very difficult during the winter. You know, what do people do? They can't just go outside in a wintry backyard and do it. But we were able to continue to keep going ahead. But now we're in that time of year where these other groups are really coming on strong. Many of them have had good funding. They've been good partners. They participated in this press conference we just finished on the weekend, right? So it was really great. But is it your sense, because you're more in tune with it than I am, is it your sense that London itself is finally coming to better terms about urban agriculture, that it needs to do it more? Or do you think, no, it's still not really registering yet?
So I'm super biased in that, because when I came to London, I was looking about what is going on in London in urban agriculture, and through the research, it looks like super nice. Like a lot of stuff was going 4 years ago, and still do it. So, and then I came to London. I started working in agriculture back again. And when I talk to other growers and other people, they tell me like the way that the city itself changes is super slow. So, but come on, you have one of the most progressive urban agriculture strategies. You guys know, but you know what? It used to be like that all the time. Like there is a sense like we're going back to the same thing that it was on that time, or there is I think for the future, but that part for me, I cannot answer that question, because I'm in the part like I see it like super progressive. But I also relate to it's not fast enough for most people.
Well, I do think the thing that's changed it has been the year since the pandemic has kind of gone, right? When you think about it, I think that as a city, it wants to support urban agriculture and does, but you have special groups that do it, groups like us or the others that we've already mentioned. But the public as a whole is not necessarily there yet. They want to be able to have locally produced fruit, but also sometimes they would rather just buy it at a grocery store, right? It might be cheaper at a grocery store, even though it came from Chile or some other place, right? It seems to me what the pandemic has done is it's really changed that now that it's waned and it's gone away a bit. Then people are realizing just how expensive food has become and how difficult it is. So now all of a sudden, I think that there is an understanding, a better understanding, that if we don't start growing our own, we're going to be in serious trouble in the future. Now, there's other places in the world that have already known that, places in Europe, like Chile, like other places. But in Canada, we kind of had the best of everything. We could just kind of get it all brought into us, and it was sent here and it was in grocery stores and we can purchase. That is now ending. It's not going to fully end. There will always be that choice. But I think it's become clear to people now that having a system like that could be so easily disrupted by something like a pandemic, it would be better to be able to grow our own. So I think that's true. So I think we'll see local growers and others do really well. But it is my sense, Luis, that the average citizen is much more interested in planting a garden.
And they have super nice gardens here in town. I go around, I see them, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Some of them also like food gardens. Like I've seen a lot of those too. That's super nice. Then you see these community urban agriculture groups around the city, and they have a super big presence. So maybe the public expect too much out of them. Like, okay, they do have a super big presence, but we are not so many, really. Like, if you put it in the percentage of the population that is dedicated to agriculture in the world is super low. When you get to Canada, it's even lower. When you get to the city, it's like, what, a 0.01% of the population do agriculture, really? The community gardens, those are 400 to 500 people doing community gardens. here in the city, and in a city of 400,000. So it's when we reach 4% of the population doing urban agriculture, everybody will notice. It will be a different city.
Yeah.
Like the infrastructure will change a little bit because like now there is realizing in Toronto, the way to capture the water of the buildings through gardens on the top roof now is embedded in their building code.
Yeah.
Like they do it because they see they save money to the city. They don't overflow their watering system during flood events, and you get food.
Yeah.
So, and that proves like how forward thinking are our communities. London is not super behind of that.
Yeah.
We have a super nice framework to work with about, but and I think maybe more inspiration, like more people going into it, like younger generation when they see the price of a lettuce again going super high, like how much it costs to grow lettuce inside and do something like an entrepreneurial a process that, you know what, I go outside and into my garage. I cut the lamps, I put the system, and I can feed my neighbors, and they're going to pay the same price that you get in the grocery store, but since you don't have any intermediaries, you get the whole profit out of that. You have to be creative about this. Like a lot of companies already know this. There is some economies that you can use, like using your own home, but all of that is happening here in London. Like there is a lot of smart people doing this stuff, so I'm really happy about it. Like the next 10 years is going to be, everything's changed, is going to be so fast. Like when the cost of energy really picks up and we cannot afford the price of fuel anymore, the same as electricity is going to change. So then the lighting becomes super easy. Like right now, the prices of the lamps are been steadily going down since 10 years ago, completely like half of the price already. And in the future, we forecast that it's going to be lower. And it's going to be easy to grow at home, where if you go outside and you have only one harvest a year, you can go inside and harvest whatever your lamp allows you 6 times a year during winter. Using the same heating that you're using, you can retrofit other functionalities of the city to grow food in the city. Like there is a waste of energy as a heat that goes into the environment that it can be captured in a way if you're creative about it.
Well, it's my sense that the city itself will be coming forward and supporting more of these kind of efforts, because you're right, there's lots of people doing it, but it's not reached the point yet where it's really broken through and is really economically working out in our city. But I think that will come. There's the Food Bites as a show has been running for a year ago. In March it got started, so roughly you're talking 15 months it's been running, and we had to do it all over Zoom at the beginning because of COVID, but we've largely kept that. But as we've moved in and we're moving into the summer, we've just finished the food drive, for instance, which was a huge success. I mean, it was almost 89,000 pounds of food got though, which is a fair bit more than last year, so that was great. But I think you are going to take this program, Food Bites, on a bit of an experiment in the course of the next couple of months, over the summer months. And I think that it's really important to do, because I think people have had a real opportunity with you, Luis, to see what the greenhouse is doing, what the food bank is doing. But these other organizations are pretty special as well. They're in a lot of different areas doing some very, very innovative things. And you're going to go mobile. Is that correct? Is that what you're going to do for the next few weeks?
Yes, absolutely. Doing this work, we are an odd bunch, the urban growers, and we all get together and we know each other, and you realize how much you learn from the community. Like the way that we process our compost through the worms, that's from the Western Fair.
With worms.
The growing in the vertical towers is also from the growing chefs. And a lot of technology is happening here in the city. And since I'm in the food bank with the greenhouse, I got the opportunity to meet these people, and all have amazing stories. And I wanted to do that, to share those stories, to go. I myself, I know I'm going to geek into the little specific, like, how much CO2 put in this condition, or how much light, because I love that. But also I want to showcase their ingenuity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and there's lots going on that's so different, right? Like, I really think that Londoners need to know that and to support those efforts. But give me an example then. You will be going to Growing Chefs?
Well, they do have a vertical garden there in the Western Fair, growing towers. They have a greenhouse also there in the Western Fair. Also in the Western Fair, in the building underground is the wormery there.
Right.
That's when they get all of the product that is going to the garbage, and the organics can feed it to the worms, and they don't go to the landfill.
Yeah.
And there are more groups. Like I also want to visit Jeff in the Fancho greenhouse.
Yeah.
How the new generations are learning this, because that's the thing. Like if you see the programs for education in agriculture, also there are not so many.
Yeah.
Like and here we're in the zone exactly that is built for that. Like Guelph, so Western Ontario. This is where agriculture and some of these innovation are happening. Mm-hmm. And here are where the schools are. I want to visit them and see what's going on there now.
Yeah. So you'll look at things like urban roots, I presume.
I am going, yes.
And then what about the BIPOC community? You know, Mystery's group. Are you going to go out there? So Mystery is working with the, black kids that are, she's trying to teach them about diabetes, right? They call it Diabeat. That's the name of their program. But, we've given them a greenhouse from the food bank. And I know you've been a big help to them, but will you be going out seeing them as well?
I want to see if they got my advice properly. But yes, I must say that in London we have this project about the little greenhouse going around.
Yeah.
We also have
these are the
green walls.
These are the greenhouses that the food bank gave out during COVID.
Yeah, those are
so they're smaller than our greenhouse, but we gave them out free to community groups. To grow.
Those are always fun to see what they're doing
for those, right? So it was great. So we gave them out free, and then you were just starting to talk about green walls, also provided by the Business Cares. And we've done some videos of that. I might link to some of that here for this show. But it's these pockets of felt that people can hang up and grow their own stuff in. So that's the stuff you're referring to. So you're going to have a look at those and see how they're doing.
And I want to showcase how they're doing, because I know one of them was Harvest Twice. We changed one of them, so I haven't seen how it's growing. So probably that's going to be the first thing to jump into.
Now, is that one inside?
That's the inside one.
Yeah. So some use them outside, but others are putting them inside. People like the Better Business Bureau, Innovation Works Downtown. I know there's others that are interested. You set it up for them, which is awesome. But it's inside a building, and it's self-contained. It's a pump that moves the water through, and it is kind of neat when you go and you see them, because they can be a huge wall if you want to do that, but you have the sound of water running. It's almost like you need that kind of music that you hear in a bookshop, right? It just sounds like you're in a garden somewhere.
So that technology was first produced for really create this living art, like you put interior plants around, but it doesn't take a stretch to see, like, what if we put some vegetables in that with nice, we like to put the Swiss chard, the rainbow Swiss chards. You have yellows, red, greens, and they look amazing. Yeah. The kale grows super nicely there, like in between. And if you do it with herbs, you have the particularity that the herbs like to be pruned, like little clips all the time, so it's always keeping growing.
Yeah.
The smell of one of those structures is, you can feel that something is going on in the room, like, and when you hear it also, like the trickling is super. If you have it in an office, the environment gets nicer, like right away. Yeah.
So what's interesting about it, though, is that people get these, but what they want to do with it is give the food back to the food bank, or we encourage them. Like if you're in a part of London that has a resource center that needs food for people who are food insecure, go ahead and take it to them. It doesn't all have to come to the food bank, but the people can have these green walls for free, right? And give them out to them. Some, like the organizations, will put 10 of them together and have a whole huge green wall. Others, like my neighbor here that we did a film with you here last year, they just took one or two and they put it up on their fence, and they're doing it that way. But what we're trying to do is twofold. Remind people that as they grow, there are people that don't have the luxury of being able to grow in their own gardens. Many of them are homeless. So it's really difficult, but also we're trying to help urban agriculture to get out there. So you are going to do that for the summer. And I'm a little bit nervous about you doing it. And do you know why?
Why, Glen?
Well, here's the reason, Luis. You probably do know. When we did the greenhouse, and I filmed these videos with you in the greenhouse. They're only 2 minutes long. I put them out on social media. The next thing, and we put out tons of them. The next thing you know, everybody was all talking about Luis, and nobody mentioned Glen at all, right? So all of a sudden, what's going to happen with this show is that people are going to go, "Oh, where's Luis? Where's Luis?" And I might lose my job as the host of this show because you're so popular. And plus, you know what you're doing, and there's many people that are very keen right now to learn about growing and to learn how to do it, and how to learn how to help families that are food insecure and how they can do it. So I'm just joking, but I'm sure you will do a fantastic job, Luis. It'll be great. And if people want to see what all these different groups are doing, you'll be on site. You won't be doing it, quote, over Zoom. You'll be filming it like we're doing here. Yeah. And that will be great. So we've only got 3-4 minutes left, but in your journey at the food bank, in the last 3 years, you started in Chile, and then you and your family came and went to Newfoundland and worked with greenhouses there. It was just such an interesting story. And then you ended up migrating to London. And also, it was a year ago, you became citizens of Canada. And it's all so great. It's a wonderful thing. But for you and your own journey, we've talked about where you've been, where you are. Do you have ideas as to where you want to go in the future with this kind of knowledge that you have?
I do see how the prices of food are going up for fresh food. Yeah. It has to be somewhere that we can link maybe the person that are not able to work in a regular factory environment, but maybe in a modified environment in urban agriculture. Yeah. So we can provide those fresh stuff. Yeah. It has to be social entrepreneurship, thinking out of the box, because we need that. And the thing good about gardening is that you get the gardening treatment like a therapy. Yeah. You get a nice rhythm. That's what I think.
No. And you and I had a special meeting this morning with a group here that we can't say what it is yet, but they're going to be doing something really fantastic for the food bank. But it was interesting. They came down to meet with you and I, and we met inside the food bank and talked to them, but the person they wanted to talk to was you. It wasn't me at all, and it's because a lot of it is pretty specific. There's engineering that goes with it. There's other things that happen. And these folks have had to come to you and said, look, we want to do this, but we don't have the know-how. And they come to somebody like me and say, how can we help the food bank? So I talk with them about that. But when it comes to how to actually do it, that's the sweet spot that you're in. Without that knowledge, people will try and probably fail. With the knowledge that you have, along with others from the community, I think that we'll see these things succeed more and more and more. And as London now moves, I think it's going to move into a renaissance time in the next 10 years around it. You just happen to be at that sweet spot of it and possess knowledge. And I think Londoners are more and more, media and others, they're all going to depend on you. Your wife, Kathy, is very similarly trained as you are. They're going to depend on you folks, and it will be great. So I'm so thrilled, Luis, that you're with us and with the food bank. But I think for the community, you always, the health community here was developed by people who were really, really mentally sharp when it came to that. When it comes to the business community, it's the same, the educational community. But when it comes to something like this, we also need somebody who's really got experience and knows what they're talking about. And that's you, so you're going to play a pivotal role in our future. I'm really glad about that, Luis. And it'll keep going. So good luck with the show this summer.
Yes, let's do it.
Don't become too popular.
I will try not.
But I look forward to seeing them every week, and I'm sure it'll be great, Luis. But good luck with it, and I'm sure it will be wonderful. And thanks for taking it on, because I do think Londoners need to see what's happening elsewhere. It's really good.
It's going to be such a fun. I cannot wait for it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Thanks, Luis.